This is a mock interview conducted by ForumIAS Academy at New Delhi. The interview panel includes eminent academicians, retired bureaucrats, and other luminaries. The objective of the program is to acquaint the candidate with the format and expectations of the personality test conducted by UPSC.
Do you think we are committing ourselves more than what we really are capable of? Because everything has to come from outside.
So one of the Panchamrit targets of 50% of renewable energy is, I think, a very ambitious target and a positive one. We are currently having a lot of problems in terms of sourcing raw materials for photovoltaic cells, as well as in the supply chain part of it. But I think, sir, now, having a target in the first place means that we'll be able to work on those problems better. Plus, we are currently improving our ties not just with Latin American countries but with Australia as well, so that our ability to source the major minerals or metals such as lithium and cobalt are going to improve on time. And we should also try and work on the supply chain part of it, which I think the PLI or Production Linked Incentive Scheme takes care of to an extent.
Okay, recently the budget has been passed. They say the guillotine was applied to pass the budget. What is this guillotine?
So, guillotine is a motion when, in a way, you could pass or vote on a lot of items together, even when they have not been discussed. The reason the guillotine was used to pass the budget recently was because the 1st of April, the start of the year, is approaching, and the parliament could not function in terms of debate and discussion adequately. So to make sure that finances were still being worked out and we are ready for the new financial year, the guillotine motion was used, sir.
Is there anything about angel tax in this budget? Angel tax?
I'm sorry, sir, I cannot remember.
Okay. Tell us something about our role, possible role that can be in Ukraine war. Because you see, China is already trying to do something. Japan is also integrating and engaging itself. We being a major power in this area, do you think we should also engage ourselves in this? And if yes, in what fashion?
Sir, in terms of our nuclear doctrine, our first and foremost and most important attempt should always be to avoid any form of nuclear attacks anywhere in the world. That is, in a way, a war where no one wins and everyone loses. Similar to what China and Australia and Japan have been doing, we too are trying to modernize our defense abilities and to, in a way, cooperate with like-minded countries, which would mean democratic countries which believe in a rule of law and freedom of navigation, such as Japan, Australia, UK, and US, to make sure that we are capable of defending ourselves.
No, we are not talking about ourselves. Our role in Ukraine war.
I'm sorry, sir, I misheard that as nuclear war. Sir, our approach to Ukraine war has been that both sides should be at the table and any differences should be discussed and deliberated before any decision is taken.
So who should take initiative? Should we take, because China is engaging directly. Nepal is also, Japan is also engaging directly with the other side. So don't you think it's a situation of two poles appearing like Second and First World Wars? So it might really become very, very serious at the end of the day. So what India should do?
Sir, the world is now breaking it now, or in a way forming two poles right now. And our role, I think, should be as a mediator, because we have good relations with both sides, be it China and Russia, or US and Japan, Ukraine, or the NATO side of it. So we should try and mediate. But first and foremost, our attempt should continue to be to reduce hostility and violence of any form.
But do you think, yes, first is reducing the hostility, and then mediation you recommend as a part of a solution-seeking mechanism. So should we do the same thing about India-Pakistan dispute? Because if two people are not talking, some third person has to mediate. And probably the talking is the only solution, isn't it?
Sir, I think the situation in the Ukraine war, given that there is an active war right now, is slightly different. For our approach towards issues with Pakistan, we have continued to maintain that we need to have bilateral discussions and debate on that regard.
Bilateral is not working. They say that if there is a terrorism, there will be no talk, and the other side says we are not engaged in terrorism. So there is no meeting point. So only third person has to come and say no, hear both and say, okay, this is the reality.
Sir, in some situations we have worked in a multilateral setting. For example, the Indus Water Treaty is one where third party efforts were useful in solving a particular area of conflict or subject of conflict. Overall, I think despite the terrorism and violence that takes place, I think we have had some major successes. The fact that there is a ceasefire for about 2 years.
That's right, but solution of the problem will come only through talking. The same thing we are doing with Chinese. We are talking when there is a problem. Why can't we talk with Pakistan?
Sir, I think the fact that as long as Pakistan supports cross-border terrorism.
No, but China is also supposing that their army is sitting in our area, but still we are talking to them. So how can you take one stand for one country, the other for the other country?
Sir, we perhaps have an upper hand with Pakistan, being a larger country with more capability.
Upper hand, you will not talk.
Okay. Sir, talking is one of the means.
Thank you.
Okay, Siddhant.
Yes, sir.
Siddhant, what is the Siddhant of your life?
Sir, there are two. In general, I try and be honest and helpful in my conduct. I've seen that being warm and cordial to people usually gives the best results. So that is one I try to follow all my life. Right now, given that I've just joined a new position, I'm also trying to be very greedy in terms of what I can learn from others.
Okay.
Because I'm in a position where everyone around me is a lot more experienced in the work. So I'm trying to be as greedy as I can in gaining knowledge, sir.
Okay, that's very good. That's a good approach. So Siddhant, tell me something. You were saying that you are looking after efficiency
Sir.
in the current role that you have been assigned. Is there a difference between efficiency and effectiveness?
Yes, sir.
What is the difference?
Sir, efficiency and effectiveness are two similar but different values. The similar nature is simply that they both help in doing a work better. The difference is that efficiency means how little resources or how little inputs you have in achieving a particular target.
Okay.
Effectiveness means how well or to what degree you are able to achieve your intended targets.
Okay, very good. So, Siddhant, I was going through your hobbies. So, you have mentioned proverbs. What is there about proverbs that you follow as a hobby?
Sir, I got into proverbs because my grandfather is a school teacher, my paternal grandfather in Terka, and he would always review the fact that me and my brother living in the city were not as good with Hindi. So whenever we'd visit him during summers, he'd always try and use as many and talk to us through proverbs. And the initial attraction to it was that using proverbs or knowing proverbs in a way makes you sound wise, which meant that I tried to learn and use as many as I could. And even till now, I think I try and best to learn or to apply as many as I can in current life.
So, what are the proverbs that you use normally? You use it is about proverbs in Hindi, right?
Sir, in any language.
In any language. So, what are the proverbs that you commonly use?
So, one that Sir had used in this interview itself is Jack of all but master of none, which is a very common proverb, especially for a generalized system of bureaucracy. Others are, for example, that right now, since I was struggling with time to prepare for the interview, I try to remind myself that quality is better than quantity, to make sure that whatever time I have, I'm devoting it to the best way. And so.
Okay, that's good. Esports is also one of your hobbies. What about esports?
Sir, I have played competitive Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition.
Okay.
And I still cast and am a part of a team, although I do not play monetary or competitive tournaments mostly.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Siddhant.
Sir.
Siddhant, you switched from electrical engineering to chemistry.
Sir.
The reason being?
Sir, after graduation, when I came to prepare for this, after the project, I did see the syllabus of electrical engineering. However, the syllabus here in the UPSC is fairly difficult is fairly different and a lot bigger in terms of the expanse from the syllabus taught at IIT Kanpur, for example. Second is that, sir, I had personally moved more towards a research-based or boardroom or financial side of things than electrical engineering. So I was not particularly inclined to go for electrical engineering.
So that's the reason you chose chemistry.
So, sir, I was equally split between science. I wanted to go for a science optional, physics, chemistry, or maths. And seeing the syllabus and the material available online, I chose to go for chemistry.
Okay, what are APIs?
Sir, APIs are active pharmaceutical indicators. So any drug, for example, has a particular part of it, a particular constituent, which determines the activity or function of the drug. This is that part of the drug. There are also some other parts added to it, residual indicators, which along with these create the whole drug. So active pharmaceutical indicators are important because any pharmaceutical industry can only flourish with the correct access and production of these.
And we know that for APIs, we largely depend on China, right? Then what is the solution? Will we always be dependent, and what is Indian government doing about it?
So the solution is to try and improve our own ability to generate APIs. For this, some steps have been taken. The most important, I think, has been the production-linked incentive scheme for drugs as well. So what we did have some API industry earlier, which shut down because of higher cost, irregular power supply, and cheaper labor and land in China. So I think trying to make sure that we can encourage some of these to shift back, or we can support some of the innovation in India itself by incentives, let's say on taxes, on land and labor, would be useful in making sure that our industries are revived in this.
Okay. And okay, I'll give you a situation that, for example, there is a chemical attack in this room.
So
Then what suggestion would you give us? How should we save our lives?
So first would be to just try and see where the attack is coming from. My guess is that there's only one door to this room. So best option would be to try and close our nose and mouth with our mouth or something, and try and not open our eyes too much. Try and see and walk towards the door to exit it, because to identify any chemical merely from the smell or the vision would be difficult. And once we've done that, opening the doors, if there's an exhaust valve, for example, would be useful.
Anything related to wet cloth?
So, sir, a wet cloth usually help. From what I read in the Bhopal gas tragedy, for example, having a wet cloth over your mouth and face helps in preventing some chemical attacks.
Okay, good enough. From your electrical engineering background, we have been hearing about this wireless charging. How does this work? Tell me from the perspective that, let's imagine that I am a 8th class student. I want to hear it from the layman terms.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm not aware of how the details of it electric-wise.
We have been talking about wireless transmission as well. There have been research going around. Have you heard about it?
Yes, sir. It is one of the hotspots of research because that could improve power transmission and make things more efficient. But I'm not aware of the technical side of it. Sorry, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Siddhant,
Yes, sir.
tell us 5 examples how chemistry revolutionized humanity.
So the first would be the discovery of the atomic theory, which fundamentally changed our view of looking at things. The fact that we found out that all things have a basic common constituent at the atomic or molecular level meant that our approach to research changed a lot. We now thought of the world as a much smaller or...
Be crisp.
Sir. First is that. Second is, sir, of biochemistry. The discovery and the use of enzymes in particular has been very useful in generating substances and treatments as well. Third is the recent understanding of climate change. Not recent as in from the last century. Our ability to pin it down to greenhouse gases and to nature of carbon dioxide, for example, is one of our been the major discoveries. Fourth would be, sir, treatments in particular depend upon a lot of APIs and chemicals, which fundamentally draws from chemistry.
Are you aware about antiseptics?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You come from Korba.
Sir.
How much coal does Korba produces annually?
Sir, the KSTPS, I'm sorry, can I take a minute, sir? Because I actually live in Raigad, and Sir, the KSTP's plant has a capacity of around 2.2 gigawatts.
Korba has coal mines too, right?
Yes, sir.
How
Sir,
much coal does the coal mine produce annually?
I'm sorry, sir. I'm not sure.
How will you apply Buchholz's relay in your real life problems?
I'm sorry, sir. I cannot remember.
Not remember? Okay.